Hello and welcome on into Big Ten Today. Paul Caponigri, Megan McEwen here with you. Paul actually has so kindly joined us. He's got to catch a flight in a couple of hours, headed down to the Frozen Four in Tampa.
Tough
I mean, tough for you.
90 degrees though. So I think we said off air, it doesn't feel frozen. I'm like, they
frozen.
Keep it chilly in Amalie Arena. They do a great job.
Good thing you're going to be packing lots and lots of layers, I guess, which is not
Different
something you're used to saying going to Florida.
I know. You pack the T-shirts, but then you got to pack the long sleeves when you're inside.
There you go. Hopefully you can check a bag and it won't be a big issue. That takes us to our big story, which would be, of course, the Frozen Four bracket. Minnesota getting ready to take on Boston U, Michigan, Quinnipiac, both of those national semifinal games. Puck set to drop on Thursday. What's so impressive about this, Cappy, is you have two Big Ten teams in the Frozen Four. Can you put into perspective how strong the Big Ten was this year? Yeah,
I mean, and the same two teams as last year. So it is impressive. And when you look at it, you had four teams make the tournament, and that's a quarter of the tournament. That's 4 of the 16. And then Michigan State and Notre Dame were like two of the first three teams out. So you were looking at maybe 5 or 6 teams that could have made it. It almost hurt that it was so good that, they beat up on each other so much during the season that, Notre Dame and Michigan State were right at like 500, but they were still there because of the strength of schedule, because you're playing each other. So the Big Ten has come a long way in the 10 years now. This is the 10th season. There was a lot of excitement for Big Ten hockey when it started. It had its ups and downs early on, but the last 5 years it's really grown, and now you're seeing it with 2 years in a row, Michigan and Minnesota in the Frozen Four.
Pretty impressive. A couple years ago, you had 3 teams in the Frozen Four from the Big Ten.
Yes.
What's interesting too, Minnesota has not made it to has not won a title since 2003. Michigan, you have to go all the way back to 1998, back to the old playing days for you.
Yeah.
What are the chances this year in particular for both Minnesota and Michigan?
I love them. For me, and I've been saying it a lot all year, and it doesn't always pan out that way. Minnesota, to me, when they're healthy, they're the best team in the country. They have all the intangibles. They have the youth. They have the experience. They have the depth. They have the coach that has experience. It's just a matter of, putting it all together at the right time. It's a one-game elimination. It's not a best of 7. If it was, I'd say Minnesota. I don't know how they would lose, but it's one game. So they've done a good job all year playing well at the right time. They did it last weekend in the regional, so I'm expecting the same thing. And then with Michigan, it's pretty amazing what they're doing considering what they lost last year with Owen Power, Kent Johnson, Matt Beniers. The list goes on. But they brought in Adam Fantilli, who's a freshman who might win the Hobie Baker for top player. So really impressive what they've done. Michigan, I love their chances too. They've beat Minnesota the last 2 years in the Big Ten championship game at Minnesota. So I like both chances. It's not going to be easy. It's 4 of the top 5 teams in the rankings. So there's no surprise teams in the Frozen Four. So it's not going to be easy, but I love both their chances.
You talked about the Hobie Baker Award. You have Minnesota's Matthew Nyes and Logan Cooley. You mentioned Adam Fantilli as well. To have 3 Big Ten players up for this award, this talent's unbelievable.
Yeah, and you could argue, for me, Luke Hughes might be the best player in the Big Ten, and he's almost like he had too good a year last year. Okay,
we have to give someone else a turn.
to an extent, a little bit. But yeah, it's remarkable. It's the first time, I think, since 2009 that a Hockey East had that in 2009. So it's been 14 years since a conference has had all 3. So we're guaranteed to have a winner. One note I wanted to say is now the Big Ten in general will have men's and women's basketball National Player of the Year and men's and women's hockey National Player. Sophie Jakes at Ohio State was the Patty Kazmaier. So big ups for the Big Ten Conference.
You also mentioned wrestling as well, one National Player of the Year. So
let's go 5. You keep raising the bar.
Keep it going. But let's start specifically here with Minnesota, what Logan Cooley and Matthew Nyes have been able to do this season. Why have they been so effective?
Well, they play together, which helps, on the same line. Logan Cooley's he's gotten better as the year. He's the new guy. He was a freshman. He was highly touted. He was the 3rd pick in the NHL draft. So you knew the talent was there. His first half was good. I think he had ups and downs. You'd see him get frustrated, but I think as he's grown during the year, the old saying is after Christmas, you're not a freshman anymore. Yeah. I think he's looked unbelievable the second half and taken it up a notch. And then Matthew Nyes could have went to the NHL. He chose to come back because he wanted to win. He felt like he needed another year of preparation to be go into the NHL as a better player, and he's done that. He's big, strong guy, so they complement with the speed and quickness of Cooley and the power and strength of Nyes. And then you had Jimmy Snuggerud, the third guy in the line, who's a top 5 scorer in the league. Those guys are just fun to watch, and they're going to be huge for them on Thursday.
It's going to be fun to watch as the puck drop does on Thursday. Moving to Michigan, this was a roster that had a ton of turnover in the offseason. Brandon Naurato finally named the permanent head coach for the Wolverines.
Get the Frozen Four, I think it's right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else you need to do in order to get that head coach title.
Thing, I guess.
But that would definitely help. For the record, if you're looking to boost your resume, winning championships definitely helps. What has Michigan done in particular this year to get to this point?
Well, I mean, they've had a tough year in terms of they had some illnesses. I mean, Stephen Holtz has documented how he was in the ICU, almost died at one point. Then he's scoring overtime winning goals in the playoffs. I mean, that's just a great story. But they've had ups and downs. They have guys leave in the middle of the year for World Juniors. That happens every year, so they miss some games. But they've gotten everybody back pretty healthy. I think Jacob Truska, the defenseman, is the only guy they're missing, one of their captains. If he came back, they would be really stacked. But these young guys have come along. Gavin Brindley's been fantastic. Another freshman that was good the first half has been great in the second half. He's a first-round draft pick possible for this year. And then, I mean, Adam Fantilli is he's just so dynamic, and he's so big. He's going to be the number 2 pick in this year's draft. Hockey's just, different how you can get drafted and play again, but if it weren't for Connor Bedard any other year, he would be the number 1 pick going away for this coming draft. So a lot of talent, and then in these playoffs in particular, they have just been – Eric Portillo in goal has been really good, and then they have been very disciplined. All year long, they have been getting terrible penalties, 5-minute majors. I think they went 5 games in a row of having a 5-minute penalty, something like that, averaging 16 minutes a game. So you're chasing around shorthanded. In the playoffs, they've gone 3 penalties against Ohio State, 3 penalties, I think 2 against Minnesota in the championship, 3 against Colgate, and then just 1 last week against Penn State. So their discipline has been really good in the right time now, building up to chase this national championship.
Which is what you want to see over the course of a season, being able to clean up some of those mistakes.
Maturing a little bit. Young team, guys make mistakes, get frustrated when somebody's maybe giving you a hard time. Hockey's a very physical sport, and a guy can frustrate you. Your young 18-year-old Adam Fantilli, you saw it earlier in the year. He did not react well to confrontation on the ice and got some bad penalties. He has not been doing that. I think he's taken from some of the leadership of Moyle, the captain, who's a 5th-year senior. I think you slowly, are able to take those hits and brush them off and move on with the play instead of worrying about getting back at a guy.
Brandon Naurato, for him to come in, he was named interim head coach to start the season, just named permanent head coach. We alluded to this. What job has he done this season in particular, though, to get that?
I mean, terrific. I think handling a bunch of talented 18, 19-year-olds are their best players, which I think it's hard to balance that with any coach, is when your better players are the young ones and the older guys. I think it's a compliment to the older players, but also the coach of making it realize that, hey, we got to bring these guys along, but we also got to use them because they're so good. So balancing that, I think he's done a really good job. He didn't get the job till almost September. I mean, a month before the season. He's preparing to be the assistant coach. It was only going to be his 2nd year there. So you couple all that together, and it's been really fantastic of what he's done. His personality is really good. And then his coaches, like Bill McCall's been there as his associate head coach. So I'm sure he was a big help to be there. He's been there a long time. But Brandon Naurato, I mean, definitely earned everything he got. I think it was Friday. They announced it in the locker room. Award manual came in because he wanted the players to know first. I thought that was really cool because how things get on social media,
man.
I would have been on there bugging around, doing my stuff. So I get it. It was pretty cool, and we fooled Rick Pizzo. You don't get
that
past
doesn't happen
Rick Pizzo
often.
Very often.
My goodness, that's pretty impressive
he
right
knows,
there.
He never gets, and he did.
No.
Smiling at my friend getting that, but I love Rick.
Well, again, it's a testament to the job Naurato's done to have to get a lot of young players to buy into what you're selling as a coach too, really quickly, because he did take that job so late or close to the beginning of the season, rather.
Yeah. I mean, at any coach in any sport, at any league, I mean, to be able to come in and do that and handle his team, for me, it's he's a younger guy, so he's 38 or so. He's not too far away from the playing the game. I think that helps. But you have to be mature at that age too. So it's a tricky thing of like, okay, you want to be a player's coach, but you also got to show, hey, this is my show. So it's that balancing act, and clearly he's done a great job getting this team to the Frozen Four. If he puts them over the hump here, he's going to do something. Like you said, it's been 25 years since Michigan has won a national title. They've had a lot of success in between that, but if he puts a national title on the mantle, it's going to put him quickly, before he was officially a head coach in 1 year, in high standings at the University of Michigan.
Well, we'll see what happens as we get ready for the Frozen Four. Much more with you. You're not going anywhere, right?
I'll stay.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that very much. Which leads us to our big interview. And joining us now is Indiana head coach Teri Moren, the winner of AP Coach of the Year. And Coach, first and foremost, congratulations on this massive honor. What was your initial reaction when you heard the news?
Well, thanks for having me. It was given to me by my players. It was a surprise that, there's not many things that surprised me, but, it was, Monday, the selection night, and, they had this thing whole planned out, where I would come down, and it was a little bit, I was struck by, why are my players, standing there, and when I'm getting ready to do this interview. But, thanks to the Big Ten and Megan and some of my other support staff, they were able to put this surprise together along with our players. And so it was obviously very, very special. Anytime that you can, get recognized, but also, get an award as prestigious as the AP award, and it's given to you by your players. That made it even more special. So it was a really cool moment for me.
I'm impressed they actually pulled off surprising you, because head coaches know everything going on, and rarely are you ever surprised. Your team that you've talked about, fantastic season that you all put together. A lot of firsts for your team. First outright Big Ten title. You had one as co-champions, the program did in 1983, but this team got a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Now that you've had a little bit of time to digest, how would you assess the season that you just put forward?
Well, again, when I hear other people like yourself, talk about our year and the historical moments, winning, a Big Ten championship, getting a number 1 seed, and you just don't want that last game to sort of define the season. And so as hard as that was for us, our season, came to an end much too soon for this group. And so it's probably taken all of us several weeks to sort of get over the sting of, losing at home in front of our fans, because they've been so instrumental in our success. And so that in itself was disappointing. But, Meg, as I've gotten older, I've learned to try to put it in perspective and just do some reflection of, the things we were able to accomplish, and how proud I am of our incredible staff and our incredible, talented team, and then the memories that we made throughout. And that's what I think college athletics is supposed to be about. Yes, there's going to be wins and losses, and we enjoy those high moments, and we're disappointed, when we do come up short. But ultimately, I think we'll look back at this group. It'll go down in history as one of the very, very best. I'm going to think about all those moments that I had with Grace Berger. That's what's sad to me, probably most sad, is, we won't have an opportunity to coach, Grace any longer. But, we're going to be able to watch her develop and hopefully play at that next level, at one of the WNBA franchises. And we're going to be able to cheer for her from afar. But, again, great season for us, no doubt. More work to do, and we're excited with the pieces we have coming back, and certainly that incoming freshman group that we have.
You mentioned Grace Berger and the legacy that she's left behind at Indiana. It's probably hard to put into words. She's been so much fun to cover as an analyst, from us here at the Big Ten Network, and I'm sure for you to coach. But how would you describe what her legacy that she's leaving behind as a Hoosier?
Well, again, I've said it, none of this is, and not just this year, but, our Elite Eight run, certainly last year, another Sweet 16 run. This year with winning a Big Ten championship. None of it would have ever been possible without Grace Berger and her decision 5 years ago to come and want to be a part of Indiana women's basketball. And she believed in our vision, she believed in us, and so I will forever be indebted and grateful that she chose us. And her legacy will be that she's played in two Sweet 16. She's played in Elite 8. She was a had #1 seed. She in the NCAA tournament. She's won a Big Ten championship. All those things that we had only dreamt of being able to do when we were recruiting her, except for getting to a Final Four, we've been able to accomplish. And as I mentioned, without Grace, none of it is possible.
Grace does so many things for your team throughout her career. You had her playing point guard this year. She was off the ball a lot throughout her career, but you had so many new faces come in that you had to move her to that point guard position. Yet your team was still able to come together really fast, adding a couple of key pieces from the transfer portal, playing some players like Chloe Moore-McNeil, who didn't necessarily play a ton of minutes the year before. Why was your team able to come together so quickly with so many new pieces?
Well, again, you hit it on the head with Grace. Her ability to move her over to that point guard position, and look, Grace would be the first one to tell you, just tell me what you need me to do, and that's why she's going to be such a great pro. Because she can play off the ball, she can play with the ball in her hands. But getting we had 7 holdovers, we had 7 newcomers that joined us, and certainly the thing that we were curious about was how quickly our chemistry could come together. But anytime that you have the high character kids, these kids are great kids, great human beings from great parents. That you have the new guys that came into the fold for us. I mean, it was look, you're part of us now, and so our chemistry happened quicker than I thought it could, and there was a lot of talent. And the one thing that we talked about was there were going to be sacrifices that had to be made because of the new pieces that we were adding, to this team. With the Sydney Parishes and the Sarah Scalias, both that started at both of their institutions. Now they're coming to Indiana, where we had to bring one of them off the bench early in Sid Parish, and then Grace gets back from her injury, then we bring Sarah Scalia off the bench, and so for them just to accept their roles that they were given, to embrace the roles that we gave them, and to be great teammates, and I think that really had a lot to do with the success. It was everybody understood they had a role to do, they had a job to do, and they were willing to do it. And that's what separates the good from the great, is that everybody can't start, but there's a role for everybody, and you have to be excited about whatever your coaching staff asks you to do. And they all accepted it, and what we needed from them, and I think that's what made this group in particular help them be as successful as they were.
Regardless of who you put on the floor, you were still so dominant in the Big Ten Conference, and arguably this was the best year that the Big Ten Conference had. What was your assessment of the strength of the conference this season?
Well, I said it every opportunity I had in all of my press conferences, especially during the Big Ten season. Look, I get it, maybe not every year, but I thought and I believed this particular year the Big Ten was the very best conference in the country. And I stand by that today. I mean, we watched, the NCAA tournament and how it unfolded with the Marylands and, the Ohio States and certainly Iowa, being, playing in a Final Four. I mean, it was top to bottom as good as it's ever been. And, those teams that were, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I mean, incredible. Could have easily have gotten themselves to a Final Four just like Iowa did. Maryland could have easily been there. Ohio State, so dangerous. Obviously for us, unfortunate that, we, tripped up there in the round of 32. But, this was an incredible year with incredible talent. But also with incredible coaches, and that's what makes the Big Ten, so difficult and so dominant at the same time. And now we're going to add, the likes of the UCLAs and the USCs, and it's just going to be even more incredibly difficult. But it's still going to be a great conference and a great league to be able to play in and coach in.
To that point, Coach, 7 different teams make the NCAA tournament. That ties a record set back in 2021. 3 different teams make the Elite Eight. When you look at a team like Iowa, who makes it all the way to the national championship game, the biggest knock on the Big Ten has been, okay, what do you do in the NCAA tournament? But to finally have a team get to the pinnacle, what does that say about the conference and where it's come from?
Right. Well, when we've had that, we made our elite run, our Elite Eight run. We had 3 teams that were Sweet 16, and so we've, maybe not to the Final Four, but yeah, we've been knocking on that door, for the last couple years, I think, in this league. And so for Iowa to get there, was tremendous, not just for the University of Iowa, but also for the Big Ten. And look, Meg, this league is not going anywhere. When I think about the teams and everybody that's returning, what they're returning next year, there's a lot of already. I'm having sleepless nights, right? Thinking about all the players that are going to return to these teams, and they were obviously dominant this year, and they're going to be dominant next year. But I think it's incredible for our league, to be on, especially for Iowa, that was on the national stage and represented the Big Ten in such a great way. And those recruits, and I know there were a lot of eyes. Our viewership has gone up, and it's been incredible. And for those that weren't at the Final Four physically but could watch it, from afar on TV, I think they really got a snapshot or a great dose of what Big Ten women's basketball is about and what it looks like. And we're really grateful that Iowa could represent us in the way that they did, and it was incredible.
Viewership has been sky high when it comes to Big Ten basketball, women's basketball in general. Attendance records have been shattered. You did that yourself at Assembly Hall throughout this season. But Coach, I think there's probably a lot of coaches that are having sleepless nights about your team and what you're bringing back next year. That includes, of course, first team All Big Ten selection, Mackenzie Holmes. What can we expect from your roster and the Hoosiers next season?
Well, we lost Grace Berger, and that was there's going to be some huge shoes to fill. But we do still have Mackenzie obviously coming back for her COVID year, her last year, and we're certainly excited about that. Sid Parrish, obviously Chloe Moore-McNeil, who you mentioned, who had an unbelievable year for us this season, is going to return with so much more confidence. Sarah Scalia, obviously. We have some interesting pieces. Yarden Garzone, who was one of our super freshmen that shot it at such a high level from beyond the three-point line. And then, some of those other freshmen that maybe didn't get the ticks, although Lily Meister came in and was a great backup for Mackenzie Holmes, Lexi Bargesser, Henna, and then our newcomers, our freshmen that we have coming in. We're excited about the group. That once June gets here, we're all going to be together and be able to start, training. I think there's a lot of promise in this group. I think there's a lot of experience. It's going to be another veteran team led by Mackenzie Holmes. So we have much to look forward to, but nonetheless, we still have a lot of work to do.
Well, Coach, we're looking forward to what you guys put together next season as well. As always, fantastic talking to you, and congratulations on winning AP Coach of the Year.
Thank you, Meg. It's always great to see you.
Welcome on back, Paul Pacapanigri, Megan McEwen here with you. Paul, you had Boston in the regional rather.
Yep.
What's the scouting report? What we got?
Up front, very deep. No superstar, I'd say, player up front, but they like to play all their players, and they can score on all those lines, which is a factor for them. The back end's different. Defense, they're not very deep, but they're really good. Their top 2 guys, their senior captain Dominic Fensori, and then the superstar freshman. They have a guy that Logan Cooley talked about him yesterday on the show. Lane Hudson is an 18-year-old freshman. He might have turned 19 now. Can't keep track with these true freshmen, but he led defenseman scoring in the country. He's a dynamic player and skater. Those 2 guys, one of them, number 23, and Lane Hudson, number 20, will be on the ice at one point or another. They don't play together a lot, but they have one of them on the ice pretty much the whole game. They're able to do that more now with the commercial breaks and the TV timeouts in these bigger TV games. So that benefits them. And then in goal, Drew Comesso is a second-round pick of the Chicago Blackhawks. He can steal a game. Like he doesn't make mistakes. He won't give up that soft goal, which I think helps BU. So that's really them. They're a big team up front. They've got some big guys that can skate. So it's going to be fun. Like you saw, the offenses, number 2 and number 4. It's going to be up and down the ice. For Minnesota, they just need to control the puck. Honestly, you're going to ask me that question, so I just skipped ahead to it.
More FaceTime for you.
Yeah, right. So, but they want to have the puck just like Minnesota does. So it's a battle of wills of, one team chasing the other. Minnesota, for me, has got the depth. I think it's going to be over time in the game. They can wear down Fensori and Hudson on the back end. If they've got the puck and they got them chasing after them, it can wear them down if they're out there that much. With the skating ability of Minnesota up front, the guys we've talked about, but even Jackson Nelson and Brodzinski, Pitt, like I've even named all these guys, Aaron Hughlin, they just have great skating players if they can wear them down. They're not big guys. Dom Fensori's 5'9", Lane Hudson's 5'9". They're both about 160 pounds. Dynamic players, but they're not very big. So if you can be a little physical on them and then just wear them down by your skating. They're great skaters, but over time, if they're out there that much and they're chasing you around, it's going to be very difficult. And then, for Minnesota, Justin Close has been just a terrific story for them. Coming in last year, in the middle of the year, he was a walk-on. He was never promised to ever play. But Jack Flafontaine leaves. He goes in the net last year midway through. And then this year he's been fantastic. He's in the top 5 in the 2 top categories of goals against and save percentage. He's just like a calm influence back there, and they trust him, and they know he's going to make the big save at the big time. And the experience now, right? He played in the Frozen Four last year, and most of these Minnesota Golden Gophers did. And I think that, along with wearing the BU defense down, is the key elements for Minnesota to win the game on Thursday.
Control the puck. Biggest key.
Get them chasing. It's that simple. You have it, they don't. And it's really that, it comes down to that simple thing.
Well, Minnesota has more wins in NCAA tournament history than any other team in tournament history.
It's giving Megan a break there from talking.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You just took it all the way there. I mean, there's no point in me being here, except I am going to tell you something.
I was going to stop real quick and let you ask the question, but I was like, I'm just going to go.
Take it. Last month at the NFL Scouting Combine, Adetomiwa Adebawore had an unbelievable performance, running a 4.49 40-yard dash at 282 pounds, which was the best mark for any player weighing over 275 since 2003. Dave Revson caught up with him to talk about his NFL draft journey.
And joined now by Adetomiwa Adebawore as we prepare for the NFL draft. What's it been like for you here these last couple months to go from a guy who was seen maybe as a mid-round type player to see your name now mentioned prominently in the first round or certainly early in the second to kind of skyrocket up these draft boards?
Yeah, it's truly a blessing. I kind of knew the player I was back in December after my season. I felt that teams didn't recognize that, so throughout this pre-draft process, I've just made sure to emphasize the 3 kind of stages for me, the Senior Bowl, Combine, and Pro Day, to go out and show teams the player I really can be.
What do teams tell you they like the most about you?
I would say my interior pass rush, being able to rush inside as a 3 technique on passing downs and get to that quarterback. So
teams see you more as an interior player than as an edge rusher. Is that where you're being projected?
Yes, sir. That's one thing I would say most teams are having me right now. A lot of teams are definitely having me as that interior pass rusher, and then being able to play a full-time interior player, or maybe kick me out in the end on first, second down, and then rush inside.
I know part of this process is you mentioned the Senior Bowl and the Combine, and obviously your Pro Day as well. But then there are these one-on-one visits with teams. What have those been like? Like, give us a sense. I think everyone's always fascinated. Like, what do they ask you? Like, what's it like? How long does it last? Like, what is that day like?
Right. I mean, really, it's just meeting with all the coaches, defensive coaches, head coach, general manager, and each coach will ask their own types of questions. They'll ask you about specific plays that you're running in your film, things you do well, have you maybe drop some plays, and just kind of get to kind of know you, the person.
Let's talk about your Combine, because I think that was where you really turned heads. You ran a 4.49 40. Now, that is the best 40 time on record in the history of the combine for any player who weighs 280 pounds or more. You think about all the great players who have been through. I mean, right? It's the NFL combine. I mean, we're talking about the people who are the stars of the stars in the NFL. What's it like to think that no one has ever done that?
Yeah, it definitely feels really good. I think it just goes to show my natural athletic ability as well as my hard work I put in the last 8 years of me playing football.
So we're talking about fractions of a second here, right? I mean, those fractions of a second are important, but maybe even to the naked eye, people wouldn't know it. Like, did you know, man, I'm trucking here. Like, I'm really.
Yeah.
Did you have a sense when you finished that 40 that you had really nailed it?
Yeah, I think I definitely knew I was definitely going to run in the 4.5s. My goal was a 4.48, so I was able to get 4.49, which is perfect. So I definitely felt good that first run.
Okay. Tell me about training, not just for the 40, but kind of for the whole deal, for the Senior Bowl, for the Combine, for the Pro Day. What's that process like when you decide, okay, I'm going to go to the NFL? Like, kind of how do you get from that moment to all of this stuff?
Yeah, so finished my season, and I went down to go train in Exos in Florida. We worked on our 40 technique, all the different drills we're doing at the Combine. And then obviously we got some of our position work in to prepare us for the position drills at the Combine and Pro Day, and as well as just getting ready for the Senior Bowl as well, because I did have that kind of break I needed to go to the Senior Bowl and then come back to go train again for the Combine. So it's just been a great process.
I was looking through your recruiting rankings. You were the 1,151st ranked player in your class. You had a bunch of Ivy League offers, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
obviously spoke to your intelligence. And then from what I saw, it looked like just Northwestern and Washington State among the Power Five. Why do you think that you were overlooked to the degree that you were coming out of high school?
I don't really know. Maybe my size, maybe people thought I was too small, but clearly I think those people were not right on that.
Yeah, I'm sure they're all regretting it at this point. Obviously, Northwestern feels great having gotten you there and gotten some incredible productivity out of you in your time there. You majored in psychology.
Yes, sir.
What appealed to you about psychology?
Yeah, I wanted to stick in some sort of like medical field, and I went to psychology because I felt like it was something I could handle, as well as being able to still manage football. So went with that and feel great that I'm done. Feel great that I graduated. So.
Yes, congratulations
on
earning a degree. What is the thing that you learned in psychology that's most applicable to football?
I would just say just understanding just your mindset, because your mind is very powerful. If you can control your mindset, you can do a lot of things.
You're from Kansas City.
Yes, sir.
The NFL draft is going to be in Kansas City.
Yes, sir.
What's that going to be like to be in your hometown and to hear your name called?
I mean, there's truly no words for it. I found out the draft's going to be in Kansas City a few years ago, so I definitely kind of marked that on my calendar. I want to get drafted and be able to shake the commissioner's hands in Kansas City, so we'll see if I get to do that.
I have a good sense you will. Let's talk about your career at Northwestern. There were certainly some highs. I mean, you were part of the team that won the Big Ten West, went to the championship game, led Ohio State at the half. These last couple of years have been tough.
Right.
What's it going to take for Northwestern to get back on track?
I'll just say going back to being consistent, making sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to do, making sure everyone's doing their jobs on the field. Being consistent all 4 quarters, I think, will give us a chance to be successful again.
What was the biggest thing you learned from playing for Pat Fitzgerald?
You got to be tough. You got to have passion. If you don't have passion, it's going to be hard to succeed in the Big Ten and obviously in life.
Northwestern had 2 first-round picks 2 years ago. You were part of that 2020 team. Obviously, Rashawn Slater opted out, but Greg Newsome played on that team and ended up as a first-round pick. Peter Skoronski, I think, is pretty clearly going to be a first-round pick this year. You have a good chance at being one. What does that say kind of about the program and the ability to develop players? The fact that after never having 2 first-round picks on a team, it might happen twice here in the span of just a few years.
I just think it just shows Northwestern's doing a great job, like just developing guys. Being able to handle, like I said, the classes in football, but as well as making sure we're still doing what we're supposed to do on the field and executing to become great players.
I saw an article that you are descended from Nigerian royalty.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so my grandpa's a king in a town in Nigeria, and my dad's a prince, and my dad let me know as a kid I was also a prince, so that was kind of cool to learn. So, yeah.
All right, now can you go back to that town and kind of like lord over people?
I mean, that's not
I'm back, I'm your prince.
Right. I mean, that's not something I'd probably do, but I definitely want to go back. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty cool. So, did your parents emigrate here from Nigeria?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What has this football world been like for them? I mean, this has to have been a little bit of a shock to the system, I would think, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think they're definitely happy right now. With me and I have a little brother as well playing football at Oklahoma right now. I think they're really excited for both of us to have the type of success we're both having. So I think they've just been really happy about it.
What's been the coolest part of this journey for you personally?
Man, just coming from where I've came from. I started playing football my freshman year in high school, and like I said, early in this draft process, I wasn't rated very high, but now I think teams are starting to recognize my ability. So it's just, I think, goes back to all my hard work I put in. So just one thing I've kind of learned throughout this process, like you always got to work hard to give yourself a chance.
Adetomiwa, congratulations on everything here to this point. Looking forward to seeing where you go in the draft, and obviously can't wait to follow your pro career. Thanks so much for coming down here and spending some time with us.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
All right, Adetomiwa Adebawore, great to have him with us here as we continue to count down to the NFL draft.
What a story. I just want to know what Mr. and Mrs. Hughes are feeding those kids growing up to get them all to become pros.
The genes.
Well, you see Michigan taking on Quinnipiac in the Frozen Four. Michigan leads the NCAA, the #1 offense, 169 goals. Quinnipiac, the best defensive team in NCAA. Michigan beat Quinnipiac 7-4 in the 2022 regional final just a year ago. Quinnipiac's going to want a little bit of revenge. Cappy, you have the #1 offense in Michigan. You have the #1 defense in Quinnipiac.
Right.
What gives here?
Well, hopefully what gave last year in that regional final is Michigan got off to a really good start. And then that puts pressure on that defensive team. You can't stay in that, I don't want to say shell, but in that mode of defense first when you're trailing in a game. So I think a good start would everybody wants a good start in a game. But if Michigan get the first goal or two, but I think going back to Luke Hughes and his dynamic offensive play, you got Seamus Casey back there and Edwards. I think that's where the difference could be, is bringing those offensive-minded defensemen. When you're playing a tough defensive team, Quinnipiac does not see a team that has the firepower on the back end like Michigan all year. So it's going to be something that they're going to have to adjust to. And you can watch all the video you want, but until you see Luke Hughes in person doing what he's doing, you're just not prepared for it. So I think that's where, if they get their defensemen involved, which they will, that's what they do. Luke Hughes had a 4-goal game earlier in the year. So I think that's the way they can crack that shell.
It's more than a hat trick, by the way, when you have 4 goals. Pretty impressive.
Good.
Not bad by any means.
Yes.
There's been quite a bit of time in between the regional final into the Frozen Four. As a player, when you come out into the ice, is there a little bit of, you kind of got to get the nerves out and some of that as you get into this national semifinal game?
I think maybe, but again, I think that's another advantage for Michigan. They were there last year. Now they have some new guys, Fantilli, Brinley, Casey, a bunch of guys, but Luke Hughes was there, Eric Portillo was there, the goaltender, and more than half of their team. So I think that's an advantage for Michigan early on. They're going to be the late game, so they're going to wait all day. It's an 8:30 Eastern start. But yeah, like Quinnipiac has not been there. None of their players, at least unless they're transferred from somewhere I can't think of, have been in that. So I think that's another advantage for Michigan. But what Quinnipiac does, if they get that lead, they just kind of like lock you down. In the Ohio State game, they got the lead, and then they didn't get a shot on goal on Ohio State in over a period's worth of time. But they didn't give up a ton. They just make the game really boring. So, that's, and no offense.
Not a big defense guy over here.
I was an off forward, so don't get me wrong. But no offense to them, but that's their style, and that's made them very successful. So the key is, Michigan, get off to the good start, not play from behind against Quinnipiac, but they still have the offense to get back.
It's going to be fun. You're going to be there for all of it, too.
I'm ready. My flight's in like 2 hours.
I know, it keeps getting pushed back. Well, we got to get you to the airport, get you down to Tampa for the Frozen Four.
Yep.
Paul Caponegri, Megan McEwen, thank you so much for joining us. Mike Hall and Jake Butt will be here tomorrow on Big Ten Today. But for now, get you to Florida. We'll see you guys soon. Have a fantastic day.